Before we begin tonight, I want you to think about your family photos, the ones in albums, the ones on your phone, the ones your mother kept in shoeboxes under her bed. Now I want you to ask yourself, have you ever looked at all of them? Every single one? Every face in every background? Are you sure you'd recognize every one of them? Are you absolutely sure? This is a Hollow Hour, and tonight's story is called The Smile in the Background. Nora Vass was 31 years old when her mother died. It wasn't sudden. It was a slow kind, the kind that gives you enough time to prepare and somehow still destroys you completely when it finally happens. Her mother had been ill for 2 years. Nora had driven 4 hours every other weekend to sit beside her hospital bed, hold her hand, and pretend that the machines keeping her breathing were not the saddest things she had ever seen. When it was over, Nora inherited 3 things: a small terrace house in a town she hadn't lived in since she was 18, a savings account with 11,000 pounds in it, and a shoebox. The shoebox was the one her mother had kept on the top shelf of the bedroom wardrobe for as long as Nora could remember. Nora had never been allowed to touch it as a child, not in a cruel way. Her mother wasn't a cruel woman. But whenever Nora had reached for it, her mother had quietly and firmly moved it further back on the shelf and said simply, "Those are just old things, sweetheart. Nothing you need to see." Nora had always assumed it was something sad, a dead relative she'd never met, a miscarriage, maybe, something private and painful that her mother had chosen to carry alone. She opened it the evening after the funeral. Inside were photographs, hundreds of them, spanning decades, birthday parties, Christmas mornings, school plays, summer holidays at the coast. A whole life captured on small glossy paper and kept in the dark. Nora sat on her mother's bed and began to go through them one by one. She was smiling at first. Her father, young and laughing, in a garden she didn't recognize. Herself as a toddler with both arms reaching up toward the camera. Her grandmother, still alive back then, standing at a stove with her back turned. She was maybe 40 photographs in when she first noticed a man. He was in the background. That was the thing. He wasn't the subject of the photograph. Nobody had pointed a camera at him. He was simply there, standing near the back of what appeared to be a birthday party, maybe her 4th or 5th judging by the cake on the table. He was partially obscured by a doorframe, just his face and one shoulder visible. He was smiling directly at the camera. Nora looked at the photo for a long time. He didn't look like anyone she knew. He was a tall man. She could tell that much even from the partial view. Slim, dark hair combed neatly. His face was pale and angular with deep-set eyes that caught the light in a way that made them look almost reflective, like a cat's eyes in the dark. And he was smiling, not the wide, open smile of someone enjoying a party. Something narrower, more deliberate, the smile of someone who knows a secret and is pleased that you don't. She assumed he was a guest she didn't remember, a neighbor's husband, a friend of her father's. She set the photo aside and kept going. She found him again 11 photographs later. Different occasion. Her 7th birthday this time. She recognized the dress she was wearing, yellow with white daisies, because she'd loved it so much her mother had to wrestle it off her at bath time. She was blowing out candles. Her parents were leaning in from either side, faces lit gold by the flames. And behind them, near the window, barely visible between 2 adults whose backs were turned, the man, same neat dark hair, same angular face, same smile. Nora's hands went very still. She told herself it was a coincidence. He must have been a family friend who'd attended multiple events. She simply didn't remember him. She'd been a small child. It made perfect sense. She kept going through the photographs. By the end of the night, she had found him in 22 of them. 22 photographs, spanning 15 years of her childhood. Every single time standing in the background. Every single time looking directly at the camera. Every single time wearing that same narrow, knowing smile. And in every single photograph, not one person around him appeared to notice he was there. Nora didn't sleep that night. She laid all 22 photographs out on her mother's kitchen table and stood over them with a torch, even though the kitchen light was perfectly functional. She told herself the torch was so she could see the details better. She didn't examine why she felt safer. With a beam of light, she could point and control. She studied his face across the photographs. He didn't age. That was the thing that made her stomach drop completely. She had told herself, while going through the box, that she'd simply fail to notice him age in the way you fail to notice a person aging when you see them regularly. But laid out like this, chronologically, spanning 15 years, he was exactly the same face, same hair, not a single line added, not a single year gained. In the earliest photograph she could place him in, she was approximately 4 years old. Her mother would have been in her late 20s. In the last photograph she found him in, taken at what appeared to be her 19th birthday, just before she left for university, her mother was 44. The man looked precisely the same age in both. Nora photographed all 22 with her phone. She sent them to her cousin Daniel, who was something of a family historian, and asked if he recognized the man in the backgrounds. Daniel replied at midnight. His message said, "Nora, I've been through all of these. I don't know who that is, but you need to look at the last one again. Look at where his hand is." Nora picked up the last photograph. It was her 19th birthday. She was at the center of the shot, mid-laugh, arms around two friends whose names she no longer remembered. Behind the group, near the back wall, the man stood in his usual position. But in this photograph, he was not quite in the background. He was closer than he had ever been, and his right hand, partially visible at the edge of the frame, was extended slightly forward, reaching toward the back of Nora's head, not touching, but close enough that in another step, in another fraction of a second, he would have been. Nora set the photograph down on the table. She noticed her hands were shaking. She noticed something else, too. This was the last photograph in the box. After her 19th birthday, he simply stopped appearing, as if the thought arrived before she could stop it, as if something had prevented him from getting any closer, as if something had noticed, as if her mother had noticed. Nora found the letter 3 days later. It was tucked into the lining of the shoebox itself, underneath a thin layer of cardboard at the bottom that she had initially mistaken for the base of the box. She only found it because she was going to photographs again. She had been going through them every night. She couldn't stop, and she dropped the box, and it had landed awkwardly, and the false bottom had shifted slightly. The envelope had her name on it, written in her mother's handwriting. Her mother's handwriting from recently, not from years ago. The pen was a blue roller ball her mother had favored in her last years, and the letters had that slight tremor in them that the illness had given her hands in the end. Her mother had written this letter, knowing Nora would find the box. Her mother had written it for her. Nora sat down on the kitchen floor. She opened the envelope. The letter was 4 pages long. She read it 3 times before she felt she had understood it. Her mother had first seen the man in a photograph when Nora was 2 years old. A photograph taken by a neighbor at a street party celebrating something civic and long forgotten. Her mother had noticed him in the background, had assumed, like Nora, that he was simply someone she didn't recognize. She found him again in the next photograph, and the next, and the one after that. When Nora was 6, her mother had begun looking for him in real life, at the parties, at the school plays, at the holidays. She had scanned every room, every crowd, every gathering, looking for that tall, slim figure with the dark, neat hair and the pale, angular face. She never saw him in person. Not once. Only ever in the photographs. Only ever afterward. Only ever smiling from the background of a moment that had already passed. The letter said, "I don't know what he is. I don't know why he follows you and not me. I have been to see a priest. I have been to see a woman in the next town who people said understood these things. Nobody could tell me what he was. But the woman told me one thing that I have held on to ever since. She told me, whatever it is, it has not taken her. Whatever it wants, something is in the way. You are in the way. As long as you are with her, it cannot reach her." The letter said, I think that's why I held on as long as I did, my love. Not just because I didn't want to leave you, but because I was afraid of what would be waiting the moment I was gone. The letter said, I am so sorry I couldn't tell you. I didn't know how. I didn't know what words to use for something with no name. The letter said, check your photographs, Nora. The new ones. The ones on your phone. I need you to check. It ended there. Nora sat on the kitchen floor for a very long time. Then she picked up her phone. She opened her photo library. She had 4,217 photographs on her phone. She began to go through them from the beginning. She found him in the third one. Nora Vass still lives in her mother's house. She hasn't taken a photograph in 14 months. She's asked her friends not to photograph her. She's removed herself from every tagged photo on social media. She doesn't attend parties or weddings or events where cameras come out. She eats at home. She works from home. She keeps the curtains drawn. Her friends think she's depressed. They've said so gently, with a particular careful kindness of people who don't know what else to say. She doesn't correct them. She has, in the past 14 months, looked almost normal, functional, present. The kind of grief that hollows a person out and leaves them going through the motions of a life. Only Nora knows what she's actually doing. She's staying still. She's not giving him a moment to be captured, not giving him a single frame to stand inside, not giving him a single photograph to get closer in. She doesn't know if it will work forever. She doesn't know what happens when he finally closes a distance. She knows only what her mother's letter told her. Something is in the way. Something has always been in the way. But her mother is gone now, and the distance, whatever it is the shortest it has ever been. Last Tuesday, Nora was sitting at her kitchen table when her reflection in the dark window caught her eye. She was alone in the house, but in the reflection, just visible over her left shoulder, something was smiling. She closed her eyes. She counted to 10. When she opened them, the reflection was just her. Just her. She's been leaving the lights on ever since. Don't go through your old photographs tonight. Or do. But if you find someone you don't recognize, someone in the background, looking directly at the camera, smiling like they know something you don't count how many photographs they're in. Trust me, you don't want to know how close they've gotten. This has been the Hollow Hour. Sleep well. Don't look at your reflection on the way to bed.